want to welcome you back to the Weight Loss Decoded podcast, GLP edition. And on today's episode, we are going to have a conversation with Dr. Todd, and we are going to talk about the importance of coaching while you are taking a GLP. So I don't care who prescribed it to you. If your doctor prescribed it to you, if you got it from telemedicine, most people that are unsuccessful with a GLP, it's because they are doing them wrong. I know in functional medicine, we don't like to say that things are right or wrong. And I know in health and wellness, we don't want to say things are right or wrong, but I am going to say it because I am Sharon Polsky and I am your host and I am the GLP Fact Fairy. And I am going to only give you the cold, hard truth. Many people are doing their GLPs wrong. And so there is a really, really important consideration, which is that you should find some kind of coaching. My coaching staff is available to you. There are a lot of other coaching staffs out there available. And so Dr. Todd and I are going to have a conversation about the importance of coaching and why it's important and your GLPs. So I am here with Dr. Todd, and I am super excited to talk to him about the importance of coaching when taking your GLP-1s. So Dr. Todd, tell us about yourself and your experience with GLP-1s.
Hi, my name is Dr. Todd, for those who don't know me. I've been a physician since 1996. Before coming a physician, I knew the importance of nutrition and studied clinical nutrition as my major actually in college.
Amazing.
Because I knew we weren't going to get much of that in med school. But I thought there was so much to know that it was a great major to have going into med school, knowing we're not going to get what we probably need to know.
No.
I started private practice in 1999. I opened my own med spa. Then I opened several other different med spas. And I really learned about GLP-1s when I became hypothyroid. I started gaining weight. I lost my hair, as you can see. And like any good physician, I ignored it for a while until I had my thyroid checked and it wasn't working. So I had gained all this weight and I couldn't really explain why. I thought I was eating healthy. And then my endocrinologist recommended a GLP-1. So this was back in like 2020.
So this whole misinformation campaign about how GLP-1s are new. I mean,
Right.
You were even introduced to them 4 years ago. I've known about them for the last 10 years. The data is coming back, goes back to 20 years. So they are not new.
They're definitely not new. They've been around for a long time. It's only because of the last 2 or 3 years with the weight loss indication and people using it for weight loss that has literally exploded. And certainly a lot of misinformation has exploded with the information. So It's important to know what the real truth is about these medications for your own well-being, if you're considering it, and certainly if you're taking it to know the facts and reality. So I learned a lot more about it from firsthand experience, and then also helping out med spas across the country use the product safe, effectively, and obviously for profitability for the med spas.
What do you think the key is for those med spas that are introducing GLP-1s? Because a lot of med spas were doing things like Botox and that kind of stuff. And then they introduced GLP-1s, which is yes, they had cool sculpting, they had M-Sculpt, they had some other modalities had sort of weight loss indications. But now they're going in a completely different direction, prescribing GLP-1s, and they've been hugely successful at it. Do you think that they're successful because they understand that you need to take time with patients, and where GPs, you're in and out in 5 minutes, but the med spas really take a lot more time with their patients? Do you think that's the key to their success, or what do you think the key to their success has been?
I think it's a multifactorial reasons why they're successful. One, we have a lot of patients that come in for body contouring in the med spa industry, right? And body contouring is totally different than weight loss. So it's going to shape your body, but not lose weight. The other one is for losing weight, but may not shape your body, right? So they're really two different things, and quite often they're put together, but they're two different things. So we used to do a lot of treatments for skin tightening, body tightening, fat dissolving injections, fat dissolving machines that contoured you a little bit. So if you have a stubborn area, it gets rid of it. But we saw a lot of people who really needed to lose weight, and we didn't have an easy or effective mechanism to do that.
Until now.
Until now. And now you see more med spas are also, you're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years, a tremendous growth in med spas going into the wellness, longevity, or anti-aging treatments, depending what you want to call it, including weight loss, hormone replacement, hyperbaric oxygen, infrared saunas, IV vitamins, IV peptides, and more things such as that, looking at health span as well as lifespan, meaning improving your health while you're living, but also increasing the length of your living.
Yeah. And what I've noticed with the med spas that I work with, because I work with HRT doctors, med spas, they get the coaching piece of this too. They have all figured out, and they figured it out very quickly, that they can't just prescribe this to people because people will mishandle it and misuse it. Which is why it's getting a little bit of a bad reputation right now. But they figured out very, very quickly, for my clients to be successful, I have to coach them. I have to give them some guidelines for nutrition. I have to give them some guidelines for coaching. Is that what you're seeing as well, as why they're so successful, is because of the coaching piece?
I think that's an essential component to it. Just like anything else you do with weight loss, it's a multifactorial approach. There's no one easy answer. You just don't take the medicine and it just flies your weight away.
Oh, it is not a magic shot. It is not
right.
at all, and it is never worked that way.
That's a big misconception. I can do everything the same way. I'm just going to lose weight. Well, to do it in a healthy way, to do it in a self-appropriate way, and a safe way, you really need to do all the above. And this is an adjunct or an addition to your therapy.
Well, so I've also found with some of the GLP-1s, they don't actually work at all unless you do the other, what I call the 5 factors of health and wellness, which is sleep, stress management, hydration, nutrition, and exercise. I have seen firsthand, they actually don't work. And then we'll fix just the sleep and then the weight will roll off of them, but they don't work on their own. And that's such a big misperception of GLP-1s, that it's like this magic wand, and it isn't.
Absolutely. And those are 5 really great points. I love what you said this there. It was really good. That's a key point that you really want to address all those, right?
Yes.
So the coaching program has to be in there. And also, I'd be careful of programs that aren't giving you the coaching, that aren't giving you nutrition advice. They're not asking you nutrition or diet questions. They're not asking about your exercise, strength training, whether it's resistance or weights or calisthenics, whatever it is, to make sure you're not losing muscle mass at the same time, which is another problem I'm sure you see and talk about all the time.
We both know that this muscle loss thing is a little bit of a red herring. Like yes, they lose muscle, but they really don't drop below optimal on muscle if they're having some coaching along with it.
Right.
And I could send, back in the 1980s, we used to send our clients to these low calorie fat camps where they were like put on IV nutrition and very controlled, and they'd lose the weight. They lost way more muscle than what we're seeing with GLP-1s. And then with GLP-1s, with coaching like what I do, my clients are gaining muscle on a GLP-1, which is unheard of on weight loss programs. That you can have a client that actually loses weight and gains muscle. I mean, that's just unheard of in my over 20 years of being a weight loss coach.
Right. But, that's definitely... that could be definitely advantageous. Hey, if I was going to lose fat and gain muscle, I'll take that program every day.
100%. And
that's why the body composition, not just the body weight, is such an important thing.
Yes.
But they're not going to get that information if they don't know how much you're exercising, what exercising you're doing, how much protein you're intaking. So they see the number stays the same. Oh, you didn't lose weight. We got to change things up. Maybe they're doing really well.
Yeah, maybe they did lose body fat, but we know that muscle is more dense than body fat. So they may have lost 3 pounds of body fat and gained 1 pound of muscle. So it only looks like 2 pounds of weight loss.
Right.
Losing 3 pounds of body fat is a massive number. People have no perspective. The other thing that I want to point out, to your point, is that GLP-1s are anti-inflammatory and neuro-anti-inflammatory. So there's a massive water shift in the first week and 2 weeks where they do lose significant water in those first 2 weeks. And so people are like, oh, I lost 5 pounds in my first week. That's not true. You lost water in that first week of GLP-1s. And then it's all over the internet that they lost 5 pounds in 1 week. And then the people that don't lose 5 pounds in 1 week are upset. They didn't have the same they didn't need to do the same water shift. They weren't as inflamed as the person that lost that 1 pound. So this is why tracking progress is so important. Again, to your point of why coaching is important, because coaches track your progress. Doctors don't track your progress. When you go to your GP and they're giving you the name brands, they're just writing a script. They aren't actually, and they're going to weigh you because and they're going to take your blood pressure because that's part of your GP visit. But they have no idea if you gained muscle, lost water. That's why this tracking progress using a coach is so important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's also a couple of key points I wanted to throw in there. Anytime you lose weight too quickly, it's most likely water. So any diet or program, you say, oh, I lost 5 pounds or 10 pounds this week. Well, you lost 10 pounds, but most of that was water. Correct. Ideally, there's old research that goes back to 1 to 2%, meaning 1 to 2% of your body weight of fat a week is significant weight loss. And that should be the goal. If it's more than that a week, so if you're a 200-pound man and you lost 4 pounds, that's probably the maximum amount of fat you could possibly lose in a week. Anything more than that, then you're talking about water, and then you're talking about muscle. So you want to kind of stay in that consistent range of 1 to 2%. As your weight goes lower, obviously that number gets lower. So if you're staying in that range, you're pretty safe that it's not water and it's not muscle, as a general rule of thumb. This doesn't apply to everybody, but for most people, that's a good rule of thumb. If I'm losing weight too quickly, or am I really losing fat, or am I losing only fat and not water and muscle?
Well, and the other thing is, GLP-1s actually don't work the way people are claiming that they work. When people say, I lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks, I don't actually believe they lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks, because
definitely not.
The way every doctor I work with, and which is over 20 doctors, the way they titrate is very low dose first. You're not seeing 8 pounds in 2 weeks if it's being prescribed correctly at the low dosages. Or are you losing so much weight so quickly because they gave you too high of a dosage and you're vomiting? And you're like, are the side effects causing the weight loss, which is not what we want either. And the side effects are coming because the doctor gave you too high of dosages in the beginning. So if people have the expectation of losing 8 pounds in the first 2 weeks, you have the wrong expectations. We need to set a proper expectation, which is you are not going to lose weight in the first 2 weeks, but you're going to stop gaining weight. So I always say, we're on this trajectory. We're gaining weight, we're gaining weight, we're gaining weight, we're gaining weight. At some point, we have to stop gaining weight before we can start losing weight. That is what the first month of GLP-1s is. It's to take you from this to this. And then we figure out what the right prescription is for you. And then we slowly start losing, not like this massive drop off. Again, that's what coaches do, or these med spas and people that want to take a coaching approach to the GLP-1s, where your regular GP is just writing a script and handing it to you month after month after month with no tracking progress, no actual information to help you do it properly.
Right. I think it's important to set up goals and anticipation of that. So if the first month you don't lose anything, it does not mean it's not working. I actually read a study yesterday that some people, for various different reasons, didn't really see a full response to it, probably because of titration and dose, but till 3 months. And then they really started losing weight quickly. So there's a lot of different mechanisms involved.
And there was also a study last week that said all the weight loss was after 1 year. So all the weight loss data that came out was after 1 year. And when they went back and looked at that data, you're absolutely right. First 3 to 6 months was not much weight loss, but they have to stick with it the whole year to see that weight loss.
Right. See, my concern is with physicians of all kinds, whether it be a med spa or through your insurance, is that people titrate up too quickly, trying to make the patients feel happier. I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing weight. There's a way to titrate them up so you can tolerate it and lose weight safely. Yes, and I feel that people are so demanding now and have such expectations now that people don't fall into, oh, let's make them happy so they keep coming. So I'll go up faster than I normally would. Because that's typically when you also can get more side effects, but you're just listening to the patient's wants, not really sticking to the medical facts.
And I am going to advocate for patients just for 1 second.
Absolutely.
They are also, yes, they are unreasonable, but they're also investing a tremendous amount of money, and they want to make sure it's not a con. So when you're paying between $500 and $1,000 a month for this medication, they want to make sure they're not injecting water. Now, I personally work with very reputable compounding pharmacies, but not all doctors are. And so you may be injecting less efficacy of the medication. Now, all of my compounding pharmacies will release all of their data to you. I don't have these issues, but in fairness to the patient, they want to make sure they're not being conned. And so I will advocate, yes, they're impatient, because as human beings, and especially Americans, we are very, very impatient as compared to other cultures. I also say it took you 20 years to become this overweight. It's not going to take you 20 days to lose all your weight. And that doesn't change with GLP-1s versus just healthy eating.
Right, exactly. And to do it safely and effectively, because you want to lose the fat, not anything else. That's a slow process with a limit. There's only so much fat you're going to lose in a certain amount of time. And also, there's other ways to measure the efficacy of the medicine by just body weight, right? So certainly, is your appetite less? Are you not eating as big of meals? Are you taking in less calories? Less food cravings? So we know it's having an effect. Maybe not the big enough effect for you to lose weight yet, but it's still working. So there's other measures.
But I will tell you, in personal experience, semaglutide for me, when I took it, made me hungrier on the very low dosages.
Right.
And it was very noticeable. It was almost like, when you take prednisone and you get that like ravenous hungry where you eat the whole refrigerator. Right. That's what semaglutide did to me. And then when I switched to tirzepatide, I went, oh, now I get it. Yeah. I didn't get semaglutide. It just didn't work biologically for me, but I didn't want to pay for tirzepatide because it was so expensive. And then I finally was convinced to take it. And I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about. Now, some of my patients with semaglutide, they lose weight within the first month, and they don't have that low dose experience where it makes them very, very hungry. And that just has to do with everybody's metabolism and metabolic system is different.
Yeah, a lot of things in medicine, medicines that help you with different things, a lot of times they can make it worse before they make it better. A lot of antidepressants make you more depressed before they actually work. But it's usually a phase of adjusting to it, right? Yeah, so a lot of medicines.
But none of us are patient enough for that phase when we feel like we're starving to death.
Just like a lot of medicines that prevent migraines can also induce it at first, but after a couple of weeks, then your body adjusts. So a lot of times there is with that. I've heard that a lot more.
Botox is that great example where we give you Botox for migraines, but when you first get your Botox injections, you get the worst migraine of your life. And they tell you, just go home, and because I take Botox for migraines, they tell you to go home and sleep it off. And then like 48 hours later, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm migraine free for the first time in months. When you first start taking it for that, that's an amazing example. Yes, I agree.
But I do see that more in semaglutide than the other medications. Yeah. And also, I also think, there's differences between the two besides I lose more with one than the other. There's a lot more to it than that. So obviously, sometimes semaglutide initially, some people get a little nausea with that. And that is more of a chemical response instead of a physiological, meaning that you're not really getting backed up or constipated that quickly, that low. It's just the medication, your body's getting used to it. And that usually passes with time. But obviously, diet and nutrition tips can help you reduce a lot of these side effects.
I was going to say coaching really for me is about managing this misinformation of side effects. So
absolutely.
People contact me and they say, I have terrible constipation. It's all because of my GLP-1s. And I say to them, did you have constipation before you started taking GLP-1s? And they say, oh yeah, I had horrible constipation. I go, so do you drink 3 liters of plain water with nothing in it? No Crystal Light, none of the additives that make it sweet. Do you drink 3 liters of plain water a day? No, I've never done that. Well, that's the constipation issue. Or do you eat high fiber foods? No, I take a fiber supplement. No. We actually know that fiber supplements, in a lot of cases, they're so denatured and not actually very good. They actually make people's constipation worse. And I'll say to them, how about you just eat an apple and eat some green vegetables? And they're like, well, I don't eat fruits and vegetables. That's the issue with your constipation or the upset stomach is they don't have enough fiber in their stomach. Yeah. And so you've got like whatever you are eating or drinking just sitting in that stomach. And then the third huge one for stomach discomfort, people are still drinking alcohol on their GLP-1s, which is absolute insanity to me. So that means you had a cocktail, it's sitting in your stomach longer. What is that doing to your stomach lining? And you are told explicitly not to drink with GLP-1s, and people are still doing it. And then they wonder why they're constipated, upset stomach, vomiting. I'm like, because you're not taking it correctly. Now, we as coaches, we figure this out. Doctors at your GP's office are writing a script. They're not even asking you about your side effects. Or if they are asking you about their side effects, they're just going to lower your dosage, not actually give you the coaching piece to fix this.
Right. Well, necessarily, they don't necessarily have to. If they knew how to manage the side effects, then they wouldn't have to lower the dose, right? So the higher the dose, the more water, the more fiber, also the more activity and the more exercise. And I always say activity because non-exercise activity is important as exercise also.
Yes.
So the more we're moving around, if I'm doing 15,000 steps a day, the more my gut's moving.
Well, I mean, you live in New York where like 15,000 steps is nothing. I live in California where we don't even have parking spots very far away from our front doors. And so people are not even getting their steps in going to the grocery store here in California. So in New York, you guys are getting your steps in. My New York clients, I never have to worry about exercise. They carry their grocery, like they do so much weight bearing activity. They carry their groceries home. I always laugh when people are like, I can't lift weights, they're too heavy. I'm like, you lift weights every day because you pick up your groceries. Right. So it's just we just got to.
So there's a lot of patients now who work at home and they're really not doing as much activity and they don't think about it. It's like, oh, I used to go to the office, I come back, and do something after work. And they spend so much time at home, they realize their normal, regular activities is so much less. So if you're only hitting the weights twice a week, that's good, but there's a big void in there in physical activity because the more your body moves, the more your gut's going to move, and that helps itself.
Well, and I will tell you that again, another coaching piece, right?
Right.
You wouldn't know that if you weren't coaching people. You wouldn't know that they're sitting at home working.
Right.
We have a lot of assumptions about the way we live our lives, and doctors are so busy. They have a lot of assumptions based on the way they live their busy lifestyles.
Right.
May not be applicable to our patients. And so that is so important as part of the coaching piece to ask those leading questions and finding those answers.
And also for patients looking at programs, ask these questions. Am I going to get a nutrition consult? Am I going to get a nutrition follow-up? Am I going to get regular follow-ups? So they're going to be able to answer my questions.
Yeah.
This
and that's one of the reasons why
program.
I really love telemedicine. You and I have had this conversation. You do a lot of more brick and mortar than what I do. But one of the reasons I love telemedicine is because you have so much day-to-day access to doctors and the telemedicine companies that are doing it right. You have a portal that takes you right to your doctor that you can ask a question at any time. You have a coach that's assigned to you. You have an app that's assigned to you, maybe an exercise app. We use an exercise app. We use a nutrition app to help these people. And so with
that's awesome, by the way, because I'll tell you, a lot of programs out there don't do that. And when people are looking, it's like, if they don't offer you that, who are you calling when you have a constipation, you have nausea? How are you going to fix it? You're going to figure it out yourself? No. You want to know what is it, dose related? Is it life related?
They are figuring it out themselves. They're Googling it, which is so frustrating to me as a coach. I'm like, you do have access to me. Please call me.
Yeah. So when patients are looking at different programs, these are the questions you want to ask before you sign up for the program. They may ask you a lot of questions in the initial patient consult, but they're supposed to.
Yes.
And the follow-ups, should be regular. You should have at least one nutrition call-up, but probably a follow-up as well.
For sure.
If they're not discussing exercise, they're not discussing diet and fiber and water, activity and exercise. You want to make sure all these things are a part of the program. Remember, the medicine's not going to work by itself.
Sleep and stress management, I think, are the two things that most coaches are actually doing wrong, is they're not even asking those two questions. And they're so important. Because
if you're stressed, you're not sleeping well, your cortisol is high, and you could put on water weight just from that alone. So these are good questions to ask before signing up for the program.
Well, and the majority of our clients are perimenopausal and menopausal women whose sleep is atrocious anyway. So we cannot keep prescribing GLP-1s in a GLP-1 vacuum because it's not helping.
Well, I tell patients this: if you're paying that much for the medication, don't you want to make sure it works? Right? You want it to work. So make sure you're in a program that's going to have you work.
And I do want to talk about that cost of medication.
Yeah.
If you're getting it for $50, I guarantee you there's no coaching and you probably rarely have access to a doctor. So when you see, I can't believe I'm going to say this because nobody watches TV commercials anymore, but there are a million TV commercials for these telemedicine companies prescribing it. Introductory offer, $50. I know the cost of medication is far more than $50. So they can't even afford to give you the support, the coaching support you need for that.
Right. And sometimes they hide the cost. That may be like, first of all, the medicine costs more to produce than that, even if you're mass producing it.
Yeah.
So just like if the Botox is too cheap, buyer beware. If your medication is way too cheap, buyer beware.
Yeah.
But also there's the
Botox is the greatest example of that because we found out much later on about people were overly diluting their Botox and actually causing people some health issues.
Well, the FDA has 13 states that are using fake Botox.
Yes. Yeah.
But buyer beware. Right? It's a big industry. There's going to be fakes out there. So if the product's too cheap, but also remember, there's the cost of the service, of the coaching, of the consult, of the follow-ups. So there's two costs, and sometimes they only tell you about one cost and not the other one. But there should be two costs. One is for the medication, and one is for the service.
And you want that service. And if the company gives you a choice, like it's like an a la carte menu. Beware, because if you do just medication, it's your fault. We've all told you need coaching. So if you think you can do this on your own with Google, you are sadly mistaken. So if you're looking at an a la carte menu and you don't include nutrition and you don't include coaching and you don't include unlimited visits, telemedicine visits with your doctor, you're going to have a really, really hard time on your GLP-1s.
Right. And also, they want you to choose which medicine you want. Well, that's really a medical decision.
How do you
may have a preference because all my friends did this one. They said this one wasn't good. Well, I read this one works better. But it's really a medical decision. And there are many, many reasons why a physician may choose one medication over another that you may not be aware of, just like any other medicine. So it is a medical decision.
Vastly different prices. So both medications are vastly different prices. So I have found 90% of patients are just choosing the cheaper one, and it is not appropriate. When I start talking to them and they tell me that they've had XYZ in their medical history, I would have never, ever given them the less expensive one because of that medical history. And so I find that a really fascinating thing. They're just choosing the cheaper one first. And if it doesn't work, then they'll move up. But you just wasted all of that money on the cheaper one and it didn't work for you.
Right. So it's really a medical decision that should be decided by the provider. You may say, I have a preference or I heard this, but that's taken into consideration. But it's really what's best for you. And you're certainly not going to know all the different reasons why one physician or one provider may choose one medication versus another. I know price is important to the patient, but it's really the medical decision. So
yeah, but the price is offset by A, your groceries grocery price goes down. B, you're not buying cocktails anymore. So that you shouldn't be buying cocktails anymore. So that price is eliminated. Eating out in restaurants, you tend to share meals with your significant other or your kids rather than you having big meals of your own. So I will guarantee you that your lifestyle costs go down when you start a GLP-1 if you do them correctly with the correct coaching and with that correct approach.
Right. And in the long term, it's going to go down. Your healthcare costs are going to go down tremendously. In the United States of America, we pay billions and billions of dollars in one day to treat obesity-related diseases.
Correct.
So that means your healthcare costs. I know people who are on cholesterol medication, triglyceride medication, and they're not on any of those anymore. Why? Because you corrected the problem yourself. So it could end up saving you a ton of money and a ton of problems.
And quality of life.
For decades to come. So,
decades to come, I agree.
And I always say when used appropriately. Obviously,
when used appropriately, I always tack that on to every sentence.
Right. I think the other concern is that people who really don't need it, or I want to lose 5 or 10, that may not be the area or treatment for you in the short term or the long term, even though people ask about it. I would
always say, let's try diet and exercise first, but there may be an underlying metabolic condition, which is like you may have insulin resistance, PCOS, and you're going to hit menopause and then you're going to gain 20. So if we can control it now and get you onto a GLP-1 program, great. But let's see if diet and exercise works first. If it doesn't, we then know there's some kind of underlying health issue.
Right, right. But rarely you get a patient that's going to come in and say, "I never tried diet and exercise before," right? But that's why you really need a good provider to inquire, what was that program?
Yeah. What exactly did you try? And
how long
and
do you want it?
Did it work temporarily or did it work? Yeah. So I totally agree with you on that. Well, thank you, Dr. Todd, so much. Also. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Todd, so much for joining me for a conversation about a new era on weight management and GLP-1 weight loss medications. And I'm really excited that we got to talk about coaching.
Yeah, an essential part of any program. Make sure your program has coaching.
100%. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
I want to thank you for tuning in to the Weight Loss Decoded GLP Edition podcast. My name is Sharon Polsky, your GLP Fat Fairy. And if you liked today's episode, if you could please subscribe, like, and share with your friends, that would be great. I also want to remind you that these are just the opinions of myself and my guests and should not be interpreted as medical advice. Until next time, ciao for now.